Hi, and welcome to Author Uncut. I'm your host and author, Patrice Williams Marks. Today's podcast delves back into sensitivity reading and why it intrigues the French. I'll also explain why blackface is so offensive. But first, if you enjoy my podcast, I'd be so grateful if you spread the word by leaving a rating and a review. Author Uncut can be found wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. So long ago, back in mid-2019, I was contacted by a really cool husband and wife team working in Los Angeles for France 24. Now, France 24 is an international television channel based in France. They were the LA correspondents for the network and found me after reading a few of my articles online on sensitivity reading. They asked to interview me in person, which I did. It was an interesting experience as I had never been the focus of a news story before, despite working within the news business. They informed me that there was no such thing as sensitivity readers in France and wanted to get to know more about me, the profession, and how and why I chose to become one. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with sensitivity reading, it's a service that I provide to publishers, big and small, authors, game developers, or any creative type person with a script and a story about people unfamiliar to them. By the way, we're also known as diversity editors. Now, although I'm the founder of a nonprofit charity and author, I also work on a regular basis as a sensitivity reader. In fact, I also teach others how to become one through an online course at sensitivityreviews.com. I'll put the link in the show notes for you guys. But simply put, a sensitivity reader is someone from a marginalized group, such as a minority, a little person, homeless person, a veteran, someone who has experience with mental illness, someone who may stutter, someone from the LGBTQ community, and so on, who has unique life experiences and are willing to read and review manuscripts, marketing material, scripts for unintentional bias, misrepresentation, or completely inaccurate information when it comes to a character, situation, or community. This is a completely voluntary service that people take advantage of, especially when they write about people who they have no experience with and may have fallen back on known stereotypes without it. Example. Let's say an Asian character walks into a room eating rice with chopsticks and you hear this music. Recognize that music? Yes, that is several stereotypes wrapped into one. And if you're not Asian, you may not even have a clue that that music is insulting at the very most and lazy at the very least. The French media find the subject both intriguing and controversial, as they also saw articles about sensitivity reading being censorship. That's what some people think it is without really delving further into what it is we actually do. A journalist with French magazine Society interviewed me, then wrote a great article on the subject, including opinions on both sides. They asked me how I try to convince people that it's a needed service when they consider it censorship. I have a very simple response to that common question. I never try to convince anyone, nor do I work with people who need convincing. No one should be forced to do anything they don't want to do when it comes to their creative process, but let me put a caveat there, unless it is blatantly meant to harm others. So, whether it's working with a developmental editor or diversity editor, it should be up to that creative person. I will say, though, that if a writer or content creator relies on stereotypes and fills their pages with people they have no clue about, they should expect people to speak up. No one wants to pick up a book or turn on the television or go to the movies to see themselves made to look like buffoons or even worse. Recently, during the Fashion Institute of Technology's runway show, model Amy Lefevre refused to wear monkey ears and oversized lips in Junkai Hoang's designs at a runway show. Lefevre told the New York Post, and I quote, "I stood there almost ready to break down, telling the staff that I felt incredibly uncomfortable with having to wear these pieces and that they were clearly racist," end quote. By the way, she ended up walking down the runway without those pieces. Now, Junkai either didn't know about the stereotypes used to dehumanize black people or didn't care. But observers said Hoang, who is from China, did not appear to understand the racial overtones of his work. The original concept called for highlighting ugly features of the body, according to a witness. So, large lips, a known African American trait, was considered ugly in his opinion. It seems that the more things change, the more our society steps back, losing ground when it comes to understanding our history. This comes on the heels of Gucci's lack of judgment, at the very least, for selling a Blackface sweater. If you're unfamiliar with Blackface, I urge you to do some research online to see why it's so offensive. But to give you a quick overview, I quote journalist Harmeet Kaur, who explains it this way, and I quote, "Blackface isn't just about painting one's skin darker or putting on a costume. It evokes a racist and painful history. The origins of blackface date back to the minstrel shows of the mid-19th century. White performers darkened their skin with polish and cork, put on tattered clothing, and exaggerated their features to look stereotypically black. The first minstrel shows mimicked enslaved Africans on southern plantations, depicting black people as lazy, ignorant, cowardly, or hypersexual, according to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture," end quote. The performances were meant to be funny to white audiences, but to the black community, they were demeaning and hurtful, and it perpetuated these stereotypes. I'll leave a link to the full article in the show notes for you guys. I plan on mentioning Amy Lefevre's incident when I'm interviewed by another French journalist this Thursday. So why do I believe the French are so intrigued by sensitivity readers or diversity editors? Probably because A, they don't exist in France, or at least for now. B, it can be controversial. And C, it's a cool gig. So this Thursday, I think I'll ask my new interviewer why they believe sensitivity reading doesn't exist in France. I may be surprised by what I hear. So, why do you think America is leading the way when it comes to diversity editors? Let me know by visiting my anchor.fm page, the link is in the show notes, and click on the button that says Message to leave me a voicemail. I may just use your voicemail in a future podcast. Join me next time when I answer your top 10 crowdfunding questions from my Hacking Kickstarter book series. Want to suggest a show episode or get in touch? Visit me at authoruncut.com or send me an email at mailbag@patricewilliamsmarks.com. I'll also leave that information in the show notes. And finally, to join our email list, go to authoruncut.com. Until next time, write on.